Is it Thursday? Wow, I can't even believe it. All right, well, I wasn't here last week, if you know, and I want to thank Helena Phoenix for filling in for me last week on At This Moment. Very kind of you, Helena. I know she had a big show and was interviewing Cameron Clark about cult leaders and etc. So I have posted that on my YouTube channel, which is, of course, youtube.com/BLUMUNKEE, or just type in Angela Black and you'll find me. There's a cartoon picture of me because we know I look great in cartoons. Anyway, guess where you are? You're at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one 100% listener supported radio station on the planet and possibly beyond. At least if you can get through that, ceiling of aerosol sprays and smoke and stuff, you can get beyond the planet. I bet that you can listen to us there because we're still the best out there. We really are. And this is Studio B. It's every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, or in whichever time zone on the globe that you exist for this at this moment, because we're at this moment. It's a live show. I know we've got a bunch of new listeners out there tonight because of my guest. And so thanks for upping my street cred, Russ. I'll be introducing Russ in just a minute. Everyone, I do want you to know that you are listening to a listener-supported radio station. And so we would love it if you could find the donate button at the side of the chat room. And please do join our chat. It's a hoot. And it's an active living organism. And gosh, we have, sometimes 70, 100 people in there. It really depends. It's a big hootenanny. And that is both studios A and B that are conglomerating into the same chat room. So if you are wondering what the heck someone else is talking about, there's probably just a couple of different chats going on, but you'll get used to it. You will. And at the side is a donate button. So you don't have to do it today if it's your first time. But we would like you to find maybe, I don't know, a couple bucks in your pocket, maybe $5. You can subscribe to the archives. And if you're new to Revolution Radio, the archives are a gem of a tool for you because that goes back in space and time. And you can't possibly listen to both studios A and B at the same time and have a life and do that all day long, every day. It's just impossible. So yeah, $5 a month. It's a really great deal. You just go to the archives or the donate button, site support tab, all those things. And if you are interested in being self-sufficient, of course, you can look into the seed pack. There are one-time donations where you receive a bevy of seeds, the most popular being a $100 one-time donation for just around 35,000 seeds, non-GMO, non-hybrid, and I highly recommend it. Self-sufficiency is key. Especially, by the way, you don't even have to have land anymore. There's these awesome ways you could tower garden inside your house, and think about all the spraying that won't happen on that tower garden if you have it in an enclosed environment with some grow lights. And who knew that grow lights could also grow vegetables? All right, I think I'm done with the spiel. Hello to everyone in the chat room, my homies. What's up? You guys know some of you are all of my best friends. I believe my guest has joined the chat, which is pretty exciting as well. I've seen him multitask on another radio show in another space and time, and so we're going to get into all that. So I would like to now bring to you my guest this evening, a man named Russ Tanner. And if you haven't heard his name, you certainly will start. It's like, he's a buzzword. Russ Tanner is making a difference in the geoengineering world, the anti-geoengineering world. He's got a website called globalskywatch.com. Make a note of that. It's not that hard to remember. globalskywatch.com. And there's also a Facebook page, Chemtrails Global Skywatch. And there's, a Global Skywatch radio show on Monday nights as well. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Russ Tanner to the show. Thanks for joining me, Russ, and hello.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here on your show, Angela. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Well, you're a seasoned pro at this, so it's kind of nice to be hanging out with a radio host himself. So there you go. So first of all, when is your show?
Well, the show is on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we like to kind of use it as a coordination effort where people can call in, announce events that are coming up, talk about what's going on, events that are happening, and news information. So it's kind of a community effort. And I love for people to call in and share content. So it's kind of like a / radio show online meeting.
Oh, that's great. And they can find people, audience members and others can find your radio show through your website. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. globalskywatch.com. There's a link right in the top to the Global Skywatch radio. Okay. And there are also archives. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There's a whole set of archives going several years back. Yep.
Oh, wow. So you've been doing this a while.
Did it a while. Have been doing it a while. Had a lot of great guests on there over the years too. and it's been quite an experience. I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that I would be doing anything like this, let me tell you.
Wow. And, I first heard of you and heard you on a radio show that you were doing with Dane Wigington, who I was supposed to spend some time with last week. So I thought, oh, Dane Wigington is working with Russ Tanner. And I know you guys were doing a regular radio show, but apparently that has just subsided. Is that correct?
That's correct. We were doing a Tuesday night show, so I just was with him a couple of nights ago doing Geoengineering Watch Radio. He decided to wrap that up in favor of doing an hour monologue so that he can broadcast in California and really focus on providing technical data in this monologue and in-depth information, because he has dedicated his life to this. He's extremely busy. So he's just allocating his time to be the most effective person he can be to expose this crime against humanity.
Well, that's great. Well, I did enjoy. I was able to make it to your shows a few times, and I haven't actually been to your Monday night show yet. So I'm looking forward to jumping in there. I spent a lot of time over, of course, at my station, but I'm open to visiting and listening, because I know you're doing some really good stuff. Plus, the archives are available. And wow, okay, so when did you start? We're going to get into your story in a little bit, but I'd like to know when you started globalskywatch.com.
It was in 2005. This is when I first became aware of what is going on in the skies.
I see.
And so I had no choice but to start it. And like I said, I never dreamed I would be doing this, but it just, they say that issues call you, and this is what happened. Is I just had to become involved in this. So that was the year for me.
I see. Wow. All right. And okay, you also run a small business. And I'd like to hear a little bit about that before we go ahead and just start getting into the whole story.
I do. It's interesting that most herbalists, if you go and you actually have a conversation, you find out that they got into their field because they had some kind of illness or some kind of problem, and they had to research it. They had to learn about alternative methods of dealing with their illness. And that's what happened to me, and that's what spawned my business, which is Herb Allure. And what we do is we actually collect scientific research on herbs and nutrition, and we publish it in the form of computer programs, websites, and print media to herbalists. So we supply herbalists with scientific data to back up their work.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so do you have a website for that?
Yeah, herballure.com. That's where we sell. It's geared towards herbalists, so it's anybody can go there and check it out if they want, but it's kind of geared a little bit in the direction of professionals, naturopathic doctors, herbalists, professionals in the field who are looking for good, solid data to back up their field.
I see. And how long have you been doing that business?
That officially started in 1997. That's when I turned in my resignation as a technical director for a theater, and took the big jump into being self-employed. And boy, that was scary, but that was the big year for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. And you are located on the East Coast.
Yeah, just outside Bangor, Maine. In here, never in my life thought I'd be living in beautiful Maine, but wow, I do. And it has been a real interesting sequence of events that brought me here.
And did you want to get into that?
Sure. I guess
Okay.
I'm getting great segue. Yeah. I mean, long story short, I learned about geoengineering, chemtrails, whatever you want to call them, the lines coming out of the jet engines of the sky in 2005. I learned about them because I'm one of that 1% or 0.5% or 2% that has a hyperactive sense of smell and taste.
Okay.
And so the first time that they did a major drop on us in 2005, I lived in Jamestown, New York, which is way over in the west side of New York, near Lake Erie, south of Buffalo. And the first time they did a major drop on us, I became debilitated. I had terrible pain. I tasted the salty metallic taste in the air. My sinuses were burning. My head was throbbing. My muscles hurt. My joints ached. I couldn't think. I got rapid inflammation. My lungs and heart hurt. I'm like, what is in the air? I knew from the very first moment there was something in the air, because for the same reason anyone else does, I could smell it and taste it. What I was shocked to find out that very first day is that I had 3 employees at the time. One employee tasted it a little bit. He said, yeah, I can taste a little metal and a little salty thing in the air. Another employee little bit. The other employee couldn't taste it at all. He says, I don't sense anything. I don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the moment I really realized how sensitive that I am to this. And I had no doubt that there was something in the air. And my first inclination was to look outside, and lo and behold, there were lines in the sky. And anyone who knows anything about Jamestown, New York, I'd expect that's not very many people unless you live there, probably. But besides Lucille Ball being from there, that's the time that I looked up in the sky. You don't see jets in Jamestown because the airport is too small to support larger commercial jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, there were lines all over the sky in these big trails. And I've been a sky watcher all my life since I was a child. I knew that lines don't come out of high bypass turbofan engines. Today, there's a big push to misinform the public, saying that they do, that these are contrails, which is a bold-faced lie.
Mm-hmm.
It is not true whatsoever. And so immediately I knew that something was being released from these jets. And that's how I got into this.
Wow. And if I might add my own story, which was on, I sort of knew something was going on, but one day in Los Angeles, which is the city that I lived in before I moved up here to the mountains in Lake Tahoe, we had an office on Sunset Boulevard, and it was an odd day. And then it turned out to be an odd evening. A girl died in front of the office. She got hit by a car. It was a very strange day all the way around. But I happened to be there, and I was there. It was around the same time that there was some type of unexplained explosion off on Catalina Island. And so there was some type of rainbow plume looking thing off there. But beside that, I could not even believe my eyes. They were assaulting the skies on a level, I would say assault and battery, actually, that was so, I'd never seen anything. I saw these things flying in huge circles and stripes and everything. I took video. I got video of it because I just had never seen anything like it. And up until a few days ago, I don't think I had seen quite an assault as I did. I prefer to call it rape because it is. I know it's a scary word, and I don't want to discount, people who have been raped, et cetera, but our skies are being raped, in my opinion. And that was the very first day. It was 11/11/10 was the day. And that was my first day. And I had just started to entertain getting back into radio and doing my thing, and I ended up becoming an advocate. Not on the level, say, that you or Dane Wigington is, but I'm working toward it. I'm meeting a lot of really great people along the way who are just helping change thought process for the more aware version. So I really want to commend you on what you're doing and your consistency with that. That is amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. There's not really a choice for me. I feel I suffer from this. When the plumes descend on us, I smell and taste them. I have an immediate inflammatory reaction. I have immediate chronic pain. I have now met online hundreds and hundreds of people who have the same problems I do. So this is the crime of all history against humanity. So there's just no choice.
And nature, crime against Mother Earth as well.
Everything.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Everything is affected. Yes. Everybody, everything, every animal, all life is affected. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So you saw this in Jamestown, New York, and you were already doing the herb allure. And so you were even more ready to jump into this because you felt these symptoms, which were affecting your day. So then what happens?
Well, I immediately saw this happening on a daily basis, and I got in. And because they started assaulting us every day, I couldn't sleep at night. So my sleep schedule changed to they would hit us at 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, 7 a.m. in the morning. Then it would get mild until 3 p.m. in the afternoon. They'd hit us at 3, 5, and 7, and then it would get a little bit mild. So I had to start sleeping in the late morning, early afternoon. And that's tough when you own a business and you have employees, because I need to be there with my employees working on projects. So my life changed immediately, and it profoundly affected my life, my health. The way that I felt is immediate. When the plumes hit me, when they actually fill the air and make physical contact with my body, I start having an inflammatory reaction. Many people have heard people like Russell Blaylock talk about the hyperinflammatory reaction that people can have to small particle or nanoparticle aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I'm one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
So my lungs expand. It gets hard to breathe. My heart hurts. all of these things happen. So it profoundly changed my life. And that is my motivator and my drive that initially got me propelled. That's when I decided to put the website up. I never thought I would be doing anything like this in my life. This changed the course of my life. Now my life revolves around spray schedules. You know, if they're going to hit us hard at night, I've got to sleep in the late morning. If they hit us during the day and they're mild during the night, I can get to sleep earlier. It just has changed the course and the quality of my life dramatically. And my heart has been touched by so many people contacting me who have the exact same symptoms. They can smell and taste it. They are, they remember the skies, 10, 20 years ago. They know that they've never seen plumes in the sky. And so my heart has been touched by that. And I just didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. So now, we are facing the largest crime against humanity in human history, against all life. And I have to speak out. I have to talk about this subject, because if I don't, and this goes for everybody who's listening, if you don't take the time to become aware, I know there's a lot of subjects out there that are important, like there's smart meters and fracking and vaccines. There's all kinds of things going on, and a lot of assaults on life right now, and they all deserve attention. But I don't think there is any single issue that touches all life at the same time. Mm-hmm. And this is killing trees, killing animals, sterilizing the population, killing bugs, ruining the food chain, ruining the soils, changing the pH, inducing disease in humans. This affects everybody. So in the future, we're going to ask, what did you do during the largest assault against the earth in human history? What did you do? So I need to have a good answer for that, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And when I hear of these particular symptoms, et cetera, I'm a very sensitive individual, health-wise as well. I don't know if I was giving it the enough credence. And let me tell you this: last week, when I was unable to attend the event that I've been helping plan for the last 90 days, because I was physically ill on a level that I wasn't hydrated enough, apparently, and there was smoke from all the fires. And I want to get into our side of the country being drought and your side of the country being inundated with moisture. I want to get into that, but I was so physically ill, and there was a little pool in the motel that I was staying at, and I was like, oh, I'm so hot, I'm gonna go jump in the pool. So I actually laid outside for probably 10 minutes. Just after I jumped in the pool, I dried off. I jumped in the pool, I dried off, and that was the day of the event. And I missed the event the night before because of when we drove up. It was just so horrible. I was like, these skies are white. What is happening here? And I see white skies. Believe me, I see them, but not mixed with the smoke, and so. I became physically ill. I became disoriented. I also I didn't recover from that until after I've been out of that whole environment for maybe, 6. This is I traveled there a week ago today, so I only started feeling semi regular, which whatever that is, maybe late Tuesday night, and so I started and they've been spraying us constantly up here in Tahoe and Reno, et cetera. And I also noticed that I get very, very irritable, and I do get disoriented. I get very irritable, and I was blaming it on other things. I'm female, this, that, the other, and I started to realize after last week's event that I think I do have chronic breathing problems, and I thought they were under control, but not lately. So I have to concur and empathize and relate to what you're saying, and I just didn't realize it was so prevalent in our actual reactions. I knew it was, but now I'm actually realizing why. So I really appreciate your version of your plight and vision and version of what you're going through personally in the aerosol spraying fantasy that we live in.
Well, I can't tell you how much I am glad when people do realize how much it affects them, because let me tell you, I want to just emphasize one more time how much I smell and taste it. You might as well have powdered aluminum and spray it in my face, and have me breathing that. It is so intense to me.
Wow.
Now, and I've had other people contact me that have the same experience. And I'm just simply, in the beginning, I felt a little weird because I was so much more sensitive than the handful of people that I worked around. But yet, when I got on the internet, I started having all these people contact me say, I'm going through the same thing. I'm going through the same thing. And what I've noticed, Angela, is that when a plume hits us, and these plumes, you can't see them, obviously. You can see their artifacts, but you can't see them. But when they come upon us, they happen oftentimes very suddenly. They happen within a few minutes. The air will go to what I call full intensity. I have a whole rating system. I have 10 different types of chemical aerosols that I have named and written articles about, what the symptoms are, how people react to them, all of this. And because I smell and taste it, I've been able to catalog all of these different types of artifacts that happen.
Wow.
And one thing that I've seen is that people respond differently to different plume types. There's one type that when the air becomes really saturated, people, like the children, will start fighting. Adults will start getting uncomfortable. There's irritability in the air. There's tension. People feel tense. And eventually they can feel depression. There's all of
muscle pain.
That's right. Muscle pain. Yeah, that's one plume type. And then there's another plume type that when that comes on, everybody yawns, everybody stops talking, everybody goes into alpha, brainwave type of state where they're just zombied out. And this has been consistent from day one. But the people who don't smell it and taste it don't make that connection. Yet I see it around me. So I actually share a house with my business partner, and she can taste and smell it a little bit when it's really intense for me. But she has fully become a believer in the effects of it, because she would start asking me saying, wow, I feel bad. Is there a plume? I said, yeah, there's a metallic chemical, or there's an acetone plume, or there's a mottled cement glue type plume, or a swamp water, whatever it is. And her symptom set will match the type of plume consistently. And then I started telling her, I said, do you see how much you're affected by this? You may not smell or taste it, or maybe just a little bit when it's really intense, but your life, your health, the way you feel at any moment is modulated by the intensity of this stuff in the air. We are living in a filthy factory, and this affects many, many more people than realize it because they just don't make that connection. So I'm glad to see when people make that connection between how they feel and what's in the air.
Yeah, glad we can all unite against a common enemy, I guess.
Absolutely. And when we realize, and that makes it personal, it's hard today to get people involved. People are busy. People are tired, of course, partly because of the spraying, largely because of the spraying. They're exhausted. They're overworked. To get them involved in another issue is hard. But when they realize, yes, you wake up every 2 hours during the night. Your blood pressure skyrockets every 2 hours during the night. You sleep in the weekends in the late afternoon or early afternoons and late mornings. You get migraines spontaneously and you don't know why. And when it becomes personal to people, then they start getting involved. And that's what I'm trying to do is say, look, this is as personal as it gets. This is inside you. You are breathing this in with every breath you take. And it is scientifically accepted and undisputed that the more particulates you breathe in and the smaller the size of those particulates, and these are very small, so much so that HEPA filters will not remove them. Wow. When you breathe these particles in, they shorten your lifespan. So we all are now suffering a shortened lifespan at the very least.
Wow. I'm a little speechless. So
it's not only that, I tell people, look at the insect counts around your light. And I pay attention to these. I'm a detail person. I love science. I'm the guy who watches, electronics and physics videos, to fall asleep at night. I'm not kidding. That's what I watch to fall asleep at night. I love this stuff. And I've been into this stuff since I was a kid. So I noticed the little details. So I asked people to look around your street lights, look around your house lights. I have noticed there's only about 10% of the bug count. And the scientists are saying the same thing. Where have all the bugs gone? And of course, they're trying to explain it away in mainstream media to being this or that. But fortunately, due to talk shows like yours, radio shows like yours, who actually have the real news instead of what mainstream media is trying to sell people, people can actually get on here and hear what's really happening. So bug counts are down. People are ill. This touches everybody, and it doesn't get any more personal than this.
Well, yeah. And also you've got your microscopic bugs, and then you've got your insects. And all of these, you think about I'm in nanoparticulate world now, and I'm a nanoparticulate, and I'm coming down from the sky, and this bug is absorbing me, and the bug is nano size or a little bigger than nano size, but it's so the saturation level for that small animal with these nanoparticulates is unfathomable. And then you look at the food chain all the way up. And so it's not that we're only just breathing it. We're eating it. Those animals are dying because they can't find any bugs to eat. And the bugs that they are living are so saturated with aluminum or cesium, strontium, barium, whichever thing they're spraying, that it is depopulation. It is extinction in the making. It is the global extinction in the making. And I'm sorry if that sounds to the audience. I'm sorry if that sounds, a little too, doom and gloom, but really and truly, that is exactly what this planet is going through right now.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Angela. I mean, and the audience needs to realize this. When, before the last 10 years, have you heard about weekly animal die-offs? We have seals washing ashore. We have birds falling out of the sky. In Maine, we have white nose syndrome. The bats are falling out of the sky. We have white bark syndrome. And what's in this bark? Aluminum. We have trees falling over. We have a sterilization problem with the elk and with the deer. And everybody's saying, what's happening to the populations? Before 20 years ago, how often did we hear about this? Every week, birds falling out of the sky, animals dying in front of us, insect population down, soil pH is changing dramatically. Rainwater. I did a rainwater test of the rainwater here. 300 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rainwater. The EPA puts a limit in drinking water for aluminum at 50.
Wow.
6 times. There's no industry. I live in a rural area. There's no industry out here. I'm practically in the woods. And there's 6 times the amount of aluminum in the rainwater. And that is a fraction of what they're finding in parts of California. Mount Shasta area where Dane is, they have had tests that show many times above that aluminum. Just so toxic. It's toxic to drink the rainwater. Where is all this aluminum coming from is the question. Well, I know.
Well, and that's interesting because I'm up in Tahoe, right? And I'm at 6,700 feet, and it's the highest elevation I've ever lived in, and it's supposedly paradise, and it is a lot more. I suppose it's a lot closer to that than many places on the planet, but it's still hell in the making. And our lake is way down, like lower than it's been in decades, and probably longer than that. But beside that, I'm watching also the bark, aspect, et cetera. But what's interesting is the locals that I have met, because I've only been up here 4 years, they're like, don't drink the snow, don't drink the water, don't drink the rain. And I thought they were, when I first got here, because it was just about a year after I started really paying attention to spraying. And I came up here and they're like, yeah, no, you don't want to touch that. And I thought, well, that's so odd. Here I am in where I think this water should be very pure. And indeed it is not. And now I'm seeing, I live in a pine forest, basically on a mountain. And of course I'm driving by, these bands of trees that are just dying. And you can tell the sun's hitting them a certain way. But it's the UV particles that are taking it to the next level, and as well as the aluminum. And it is just, you've got these brown patches. It's death. It's just death happening. So
yes. And Angela, talking about the UV, I'm getting reports. I'm in touch with people all over the world. They report to me. I get more emails than I can handle. I have I founded what is now the largest group that deals with this subject. I'm not saying that out of pride. I'm saying that because I want the public who's not into this to come and see what the commotion about. There is a lot going on, and they need to know about this. You mentioned the UV. I'm getting reports now from Europe and the United States from people, and this is kind of spontaneously happened from people who have never had a problem with sunlight before. I grew up in Florida, north of Tampa Bay. I used to live in the sun. People are going out now occasionally. It's not happening to everybody, but on certain occasions, on certain days, people will go out in the sun. They'll be in the sun for 1 hour, hour and a half. They'll come back. They have blisters and rashes all over their skin.
Oh, yeah.
Never experienced this before.
Yeah, I've heard of this on, in the Pacific Ocean as well. We also have the Fukushima factor over on our end, but not that everyone doesn't. I mean, it's global as well. But yeah, blisters, etc. I know what you're talking about. Wow. And it's not just UVA, it's UVB that's really bad too. Is that not correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is going on? I know we have HAARP that punches holes in the ionosphere. We know that the chemical aerosols, if they are made up of what we suspect, they can deplete ozone. So this planet is being destroyed in front of our very eyes, and this is not fear mongering. This is not alarmism. Alarmism. I'm just a guy who I was trying to make a living and trying to live my life, and got into this because it is that important. Not because I wanted to, not because I had a choice. Dane says the same thing. Dane would much rather be doing other things. Many of the activists that I talk to would rather be doing other things, but you can't. Your life has been profoundly changed. It's that important. So they're burning, the planet's being destroyed, life is being destroyed, and we are all going to directly feel the feelings. We already are suffering with it already, but those who don't even notice it, maybe those who have higher glutathione levels in their bodies or whatever, who don't seem to have the rapid inflammation, they're going to be feeling it soon if they aren't already.
Yeah, the denial will be over. I would have to assume. And what was the term that you used about something in their blood that was maybe filtering it out more than others?
Glutathione. There are people who produce a lot of glutathione. This is a sulfur-based molecule in the blood. This is a substance that the body produces that actually removes toxins from the body. And what we have found, there's been a lot of research about glutathione. This is a very, very interesting topic because basically articles came out in the last few years. Glutathione is so important in the body that it pretty much can be used as a lifespan predictor. If you have high glutathione levels, you're going to live longer. Why is this? Well, this is a very interesting subject, but the gist of it is those who produce more glutathione actually detox much more efficiently. And incidentally, those who are sensitive, those who have autism, those who have ADD, those who are subject to these metallic type diseases are the ones almost invariably who are poor excretors of metals, and they have low glutathione production or they have hindered glutathione utilization in the body. So very important substance.
And is that something that one can replenish or beef up on in a supplement?
You can. You have to. You can't just take glutathione because about 90% of it will be destroyed in your gut. So you need to take reduced glutathione, or you need to get glutathione injections. You can also take things like N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine is what they call a glutathione precursor. It actually helps your body produce. It's used by the body to produce glutathione. You can also take methylated B12, which is called methylcobalamin. Now, B12 is called cobalamin, and that's good old B12. Everybody's heard of it. But people who can't produce glutathione, a big group of these people who are high testosterone. That's why they found that 3 out of 4 children with autism were high testosterone children. And Dr. Haley discovered this, and then he lost his funding. As soon as he started discovering connections between vaccines and mercury and autism, the NIH and National Institutes of Medicine pulled all his funding, and they said, we're not going to do any mercury funding anymore. That's a whole nother thread of conversation about the corruption. But anyway, he discovered that when children have high testosterone, it inhibits their ability to methylate B12. And if you don't methylate B12 in the body, if you don't process it, because B12 is used over and over, and if you don't process B12 properly, you cannot produce glutathione. And these 3 out of 4 of autistic children had this problem. Wow. They were high testosterone, blocked methylcobalamin production in the body or utilization in the body. So there was a real interesting pattern there. So, and these were poor mercury excretors, and it's all about glutathione production. So some of the population, and this is a question I get asked all the time, because I had mercury toxicity from my amalgam fillings, and I recovered dramatically back in 2000. And I get asked all the time, well, why isn't everybody affected? Well, because some people excrete mercury many, many times more efficiently than others do. And it's the ones who don't detox efficiently that suffer.
Wow. First of all, I have to tell you that the chat is blowing up about how they find you to be very informed and a very honest and open and real person who has just you're hitting up basically all the points. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the chat for tuning in and let you know that I'm equally impressed. I mean, as much as all this is really bad news, which it is, I actually have goosebumps because of this level of conversation we're having. So I really appreciate it. And I'm taking notes. You should see I'm just scribbling stuff. I got methyl cobalamin. I got everything. So, all right. What I guess, unless you had some other addition to that, I do have my next question for you.
Oh, absolutely. Go right ahead. I could talk nonstop because I'm emotional about this issue. I have goosebumps. I'm not kidding. When you said you have goosebumps, I get goosebumps. This is it. I want people to understand this. You are living through a time of history that is unequaled in history. This attack on life on this planet is complete, and it's going to change everything, and it's going to do it very rapidly. It's happening right now. So go ahead with your question, but I am emotional about this. So I I,
Yeah.
I could go on for hours. So
Oh
go ahead.
no, we are going on for hours.
Good. Let's go on for
Okay.
hours.
So my next question is, you said you have identified 10 types of different plumes, and I was wondering if that's backtracking too far, or if we could maybe explore, just some titles and maybe some keywords. Is that impossible because these are dissertations you've written? So
Not impossible at all. This is fresh in my mind because I keep track of what they spray every day, and it changes. It's consistent, and there are patterns, but it has changed and migrated through time. Here's what it is, and I'm looking at my article right now. I have the very first type I encountered was a salty metallic type. This was in Jamestown, New York, Western New York, and it was a very salty metallic taste to it, and it was a blunt metal. And some metals, and because I've had such a sensitive sense of taste and smell, I want to make this real to people. I am a foodie. What is that? I love a good meal, and I always have, and I never knew why. Now I know why, because my sense of taste and smell is very sensitive, is very high. My sensitivity is very high. So a meal is a wonderful experience. It's an amazing thing to me, and I'm grateful to have that. But at the same time, I taste these plumes that are being dropped on us. So the very first type that I experienced was the salty metallic type. And that was the kind that they sprayed. And that was almost exclusively what they sprayed in Jamestown for the first couple of years. And they started mixing in another type. It started migrating. Then another type became very prevalent that I call the iron aluminum. It actually tastes like aluminum. And I want to say this. People say, well, how do you know what aluminum tastes like? How do you know? Because I've been in machine shops. I have sawed pipes, and I've sawed metal beams because I do handiwork sometimes. And when you saw metal, a sensitive person like me can taste it. You can start tasting the dust that gets in the air, and you're like, oh, if you work drywall has an aluminum-based paste in the middle of it. It helps make it fireproof. Drywall resists fire, and it has that stuff in the middle that looks like chalk. It's kind of chalky, but that's aluminum based. And so if you're cutting a copper pipe, if you're working around iron and filing it, whatever, that dust gets in the air and you can taste it. I can taste it. And so in my mind, since childhood, I started categorizing these tastes. Oh, that's copper. Oh, that's iron. Oh, that's chrome. Oh, that's whatever. And that's just something you do. I never thought twice about it. I actually thought everybody was that way until I started realizing that it's a smaller portion of the population. Well, getting that out of the way, the iron aluminum type actually tastes like iron, or kind of like iron oxide, like rust mixed with aluminum. That was a type that started being mixed in and spraying in between the salty metallic types early on. There's a type called the drywall dust type. If you've ever done drywall or been in a place where they do drywall, it gets dusty.
And what did you call it again? The third one?
The drywall dust type.
Okay, gotcha. Taking
Yeah,
notes.
and it has a pasty metallic flavor. And it fills the air with a fine dust that's almost like talc powder. If you have baby powder in the air, and it gives you a sensation, it's kind of like a mixture of those things. And that's one of the types, and that was very common for a while. It gets very interesting. There's one I call the acetone type, which smells and tastes like acetone.
I was going to bring up the acetone. I swear, I remember you talking about this on that show with Dane, and I have smelled that acetone. My husband thought I was crazy. I kept smelling it all over town.
Absolutely. I've gotten reports. That is one of the most widely smelled types that people report to me, smelling the acetone type. It is also one of the ones that caused the worst set of symptoms, and it became the most common type for a while. They have changed. The last year, they have actually migrated to, the last couple of years, they've migrated to a new type. But the acetone type, I get a lot of reports of people smelling that. So that's one big type. That is probably the second or third worst in terms of the the intensity of symptoms. There's one called the swamp water type, and these are all different. I want people to understand, and this is not something coming from my house. I get in my car and I drive 10, 20, 30, 40 miles and although the intensity will kind of go up and down as if you're driving through plumes as you drive, I can take one breath in. I can tell you how intense it is, just like if somebody's cooking in a house. You can smell it. That's what it is for me. So these types have migrated, and the swamp water type actually tastes like a mixture of algae and mushrooms. This is the type that I believe is biologic. This is the type, and I'll tell you why. Well, there's kind of a long story behind it, but the bottom line is that when in my early days of dating, long story short, is I could tell people when they were going to get sick. And I know it sounds a little strange, but this is actually,
I'm following right along. I'm completely fascinated right now.
You can find articles online where there are certain people who can smell illness. In fact, they have used dogs in experiments to smell people who have cancer. They have a different scent. There's something different about them. And I picked up on this when I was a kid. And again, when I was a kid, I thought everybody was that way. I never thought any of this stuff was different or not as common with some as with others. But the swamp water, what happened with me is that when I would know people, there's a certain sensation and scent that they would have on their breath, and I could tell that they had an upper respiratory infection. And I would tell them, I would say, only people knew me well, because this doesn't go over too well with strangers. Right. But long story short, I could predict when they were going to get sick, and the next day they would have cold and flu symptoms. And I thought everybody could do this until I started growing up and realizing that this was something that I did. But the swamp water type actually has that scent that people have in their breath when they have a respiratory infection. It has, and the scent and smell is like algae and mushrooms, but there's a component in there that creates a sensation in my sinuses that is exactly the same as when somebody has a viral or bacterial infection in their breath. And that swamp water type is what makes people sick. We had, every time they spray that 3 days or more in a row, and they do it, and it's very interesting patterns, because they do it when it gets cold. They do it when people expect to get sick. So 3 days in a row, they will spray it, and you'll start seeing a portion of the population get sick. And of course, they say this is what's going around. One time here in Maine, they sprayed that type 3 weeks, every day for 3 weeks in a row. I've never seen a span that long. The longest I've seen besides that was 1 week. They went 3 weeks. They shut down the school systems. And I was telling my business partner, I said, is this unbelievable? They are doing this. This is not something that's going around. They did this to everybody. And I was having to take immune stimulator herbs in order to stay healthy, because it was just trying to knock me out, But anyway, that's a swamp water type. That's a very peculiar type because it makes everybody sick.
If I may interject, I'm definitely familiar with that. I know when you've described this to me, which I'm now, of course, going to read all of your articles on all of these different smells, etc. And the first three, yes, I also am familiar with those types. But as we go on, I have to tell you that swamp water thing, which I've never actually defined, but I have gone through that up here in this area. So I mean, there are certain times when I'm just like, what is that? So anyway, very interesting. And we've done 5 now. So we got 5 more.
Yeah. Do you want me to? Okay. Here we go. We're rolling.
Are you good? Are you good? Are we good?
I'm good. I'm good. I want people to know about this. This is being done to you people. This is being done. And I'm speaking this because it is our moral obligation to talk about what we know. Whistleblowers, come out and tell the truth. We need you. So anybody who has information, please bring it forward. That's why I do the swamp water type. The next type is the pharmaceutical type. Once a year, I have insomnia really bad or something, I take a sleeping pill. I don't like taking anything chemical. Almost everything I do is natural. But the pharmaceutical type tastes exactly like a sleeping pill. Mm-hmm. And it makes everybody so tired, so lethargic, it's as if we're breathing a sleeping pill. And again, I don't know what's in it, but I smell it and I see people's reactions and I see my reactions. There's the sulfur type. The sulfur type is the most smelled, whatever, if that's a word. It is the most universally detected type of all of them. And it's not used so much. They actually, when I lived in Jamestown about a year and a half into the spraying, 2 years, they started using the sulfur type and everybody started talking about it, and then they stopped. And now you hear about it once in a while here and there, but I think it was too universally detected by people. But that would cover large areas, and it just smelled like rotten eggs.
I remember that one. I remember
Yeah,
it well.
a lot of people do, or like sewage, raw eggs. It's the smell of sulfur, and it's not pleasant, but a lot of people detected that. There's another one called the blunt metallic type, which is a purely metallic type that tastes like a type of metal that I've never really identified. I don't know that it's a metal, but it's kind of like if you mixed chrome with maybe iron or something. It's a very blunt metallic. I don't know what it is, but it has symptoms that are identical to barium. I've never tasted barium. I have tasted these other things in machine shops because of the dust in the air, like copper and iron and zinc and chrome. And if you're sensitive, you taste those things in the air when they're working on that type of metal. I don't know what barium tastes like, but the blunt metallic type actually causes stomach cramps. And that is one of the telltale signs of barium poisoning. And I'm thinking, I wonder if this is the barium type. I wonder if that, I don't know. I don't know, but maybe that's the barium type. Then I'll jump down to the pesticide type. This was another one that was very widely detected by people. And I remember this. I lived in Jamestown again, and there were several days where you would just smell pesticide in the air. And I lived in an area where people wouldn't use pesticides. I got in the truck. I drove to Erie, Pennsylvania, which is an hour away, and 20 minutes into the ride, you could still smell it. And every single time I'd smell it, no matter where I went, how far I drove, it was over a large area. And of course, if somebody sprayed their lawn, you're going to smell it for a few blocks, maybe at most. But this was over huge areas. And I said the only explanation is this coming from the sky. I heard this from many people in many locations, and it happened in spurts, and then they did away with it. Too many people were detecting it, is my theory. 3 more types to go. Freshly cut grass type. This is one that people call everything. They say, well, it's kind of like dryer sheets. It's kind of like musty. It's kind of like freshly cut grass or hay that is maybe mildewy. It's kind of like that. This type is they use this a lot intermittently now. They only use it intermittently now, but for a couple of years back through 2011 through 2012, they used this a lot, and it caused a tremendous headache in me. Just made me feel really lethargic, gave me a terrible headache, and had the other symptoms of phosgene gas. I'm not saying it's phosgene gas, but it actually, some of the attributes of it do line up with that. And I know some people online were saying that a whistleblower said that they were using phosgene gas. I don't know. I'm not saying that's true. I haven't tested it. I don't have a way to test it, unfortunately, but this is my experience. 2 more types, dryer sheets and the fabric softener type. You smell dryer sheets, you don't think anything of it. Somebody's drying their laundry next door or something, right? Well, what happens when you smell this odor over 10, 15, 20 miles? Where is this coming from? This is another type that was used intermittently, and I would get reports kind of all at once. I get all these reports that all these people are smelling the dryer sheets, fabric softener everywhere, and then it would go away after a few days. And then a month, 2 months later, I'd get all these reports, and then it would go away. Now here's the biggie. This is the one that in the entire Northeast, at least, and I believe probably all the way down to Florida, because I've traveled there 6 times by air or by driving in the last few years. This I call the model cement burnt plastic type. This is the predominant type. It is the one that causes the worst symptoms of all. And I've noticed that as they've gone through types and they would introduce a new type, the new types always caused worst symptoms than the previous types, almost always. And the ones that caused the worst symptoms became the most frequently sprayed. The model cement burnt plastic type is now by far the daily one that they use. This began to occur at the same time people began reporting seeing snow that doesn't melt. And you see all these YouTube videos trying to melt snow, and you see sheets of snow rolling off of people's houses, rolling down their cars. It's almost like it's bound together like a matrix. And snow that's happening at 40 and 45 degree weather.
Been there.
And, right. In Buffalo, we see people a month ago, there's still piles of snow in parking lots, and they're like, snow still hasn't melted. What's going on? When have we seen things like that before? Well, let me tell you how I came across this. Is I started experiencing this new type a couple years ago, and I didn't really know. I could recognize the odor, but I couldn't place it. I'm like, I've smelled that before. I couldn't place it. I couldn't place it. I couldn't place it. And I gave it some other name. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I can. Then somebody made a video where they collected snow, and I have this video on our website. They collected snow and they melted it, and they showed everybody what was in the snow. They took a spoon and they were scooping this white, slimy, goopy substance off the top of the water, the resulting water, when they did finally melt the snow, which melted very slowly, by the way. It was very hard to melt. And they said it smelled like model cement glue.
Wow.
Well, guess what? When I was a kid, I was into science like I am now. I used to make models sometimes, and I know what model cement glue. And right as soon as that person in that video said that, I said, that's it. That's exactly the scent. And what is the scent that makes model cement glue smell like that? Toluene.
Okay.
So that's what's attributed to that smell. So I don't know for sure that this is toluene, but it smells exactly like model cement glue. This is sprayed on a schedule every day. I spent most of my time in 2014 in Philadelphia. I've come back to Maine now, but I spent a lot of time in 2014 down there. Same thing, same patterns, the whole Northeast, same patterns every time. I've driven back and forth many times. So that is the type that we're experiencing now. I actually had a friend as a demonstration. I have a wet mask that I wear and I protect myself. Mm-hmm. And I would breathe through this mask because it really helps to alleviate my symptoms. It's the only thing I've found that really is effective at removing this stuff from the air. And I would breathe through it for 10 minutes. And I would say to my friend, I know this is a little strange, but we're living in intense times. So I said, please smell this washcloth. Okay, there's the air passing through this washcloth. And I'd say, tell me what you smell. And they smelled it and said, that smells just like burnt rubber. And wow. I'm like, yes, that is what I smell. It has to be concentrated before other people smell it. But that's what I'm smelling in the air. It smells like burnt rubber mixed with model cement glue. So there is the list of types through the last 10 years that I've experienced.
Wow, and I think we came up with like, about 12 or 13 so far. There was more than 10. So,
yeah.
Wow, and this is fascinating. A couple of quick questions before the break, and then we'll have a 5-minute break, and I'll go drink some. I'll try to find some. I gotta get a water structurer thing because I know what I'm drinking in my water. Anyway, okay. So question was, during the pharmaceutical explanation, one of our chatters, Mona, asked about, is it lithium? Do you think there's, in your opinion, do you think lithium might be a part of that? And not necessarily that it's that particular type, but do you think they're spraying lithium at times in the air?
The symptomology indicates that that's a very real possibility, that we're getting large doses of lithium. Mm-hmm. The political side, when you look at the people doing this, what their motivations are, and this is something I incidentally have studied for a long time, so all these things kind of came together in my life to make sense of this whole thing. It would make sense that they would do that. A whistleblower came forward not long ago that actually said lithium is what we're actually depositing. So I think it is very possible, and I would like to see more testing done to see if we start seeing lithium show up everywhere.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mona, and also a great answer. And another question from a chatter named Count Cranula. He has 1,000 questions for you, by the way. So, okay. But in the first one he asked was, does your tongue get numb? Well, this was earlier on when you just started to describe these 10 types, or I'm sorry, 12, 13 types. That was his question. Does your tongue get numb when you're breathing this? Because his does, apparently, from latex. If he's got, which I don't even want to know why. Oh goodness. But anyway, have you ever experienced that? Oh, you gotta laugh. Anyway, have you ever experienced anything like that? Tongue numbing?
A little bit, yes, a little bit. There is a type, the acetone type. There, and I want to explain to people too, it's a little more complicated than we think, is that the acetone type has a couple components to it, I believe. And this is the type that's always present whenever you see the halos around the sun.
Yes, I have pictures. Yes,
that's right. The acetone, I've watched the sky all my life. I've never seen halos around the sun until the spraying happened. And let me tell you, it was always the acetone type was present. So wow. Yes, it feels like pop rocks on the tongue too.
Wow. Okay, so we'll be right back in about, 4 to 5 minutes. Everyone, it's Russ Tanner with me tonight on At This Moment.